Welcome everyone to Wager Talk Extra. It's Ryder Cup edition. We've been waiting for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Myself and Nick Borrman are going to break down the Ryder Cup. You're going to want to stick around and hit that like button. We're going to go over the course. We're going to go over outright winners. We're going to go over players that can trip you up from both teams. We're going to go over a player that we like to score the most points. It's an action-packed show. Nick and I both have packs up for the Ryder Cup, and both packs, these are going to include all plays throughout the tournament. That's the best thing about the Ryder Cup from a betting perspective is you can bet individual matches, you can bet the whole thing, you can bet all the singles. It's just a huge, beautiful betting weekend. Nick Borrman coming off of an amazing season with all those outright winners. I mean, this is one of the best weeks in golf, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I mean, this is from for me from a betting perspective, I don't have the outright plays this week, so it changes my strategies up a little bit. But it's not too much different to find the top point score. It's kind of the same idea, but I'm excited about it. It is the most fun event to watch. I don't know how. I really want to go as a spectator, but I'm wondering how maybe it's not the best as spectator because there's so few groups in the course and everybody's kind of jam packed into one spot. But I'm going when it's in Bethpage in 2 years. I'll be there. You can count on that.
Nice. You have to work on that singing voice. There's songs that you have to sing. So, all right, guys, let's get right into the course. This is Marco Simone Golf and Country Club. This course is a lot of fun. I love this course. I think it's a fantastic setup for the Ryder Cup. It has an incredible mix of scoreable holes. It's got some tough holes mixed in. It doesn't really appear to favor a certain type of golfer. The Bombers are going to have some holes where they can drive the short par fours. The shorter players are going to have some really nice holes where they have good approach shots on layups. I think the biggest thing I would say is you have to hit the fairway off of the tee. Driving accuracy is a big one. There's some holes where hitting it in the rough, it's a big time penalty. There are holes where water is in
Yep.
play. There are strategically placed bunkers on some holes that make easy holes very, very difficult. So I would say the team that hits the most fairways is really going to have the big advantage. The shorter par fours, I think, is going to be the big story. I think that those are going to be the holes that separate the winner from the losers. So it's a big risk or reward. If you try and drive the hole and you make it and you end up safe, you've got easy birdie look. If you're left or right, or obviously in the penalty, you got bogey. And these shorter players, if they want to lay up, they're going to have like 50, 60-yard, approaches coming in. It's a big time strategy, and we're going to go over some of the shorter par fours. So, if I'm looking at those, I think the par three should even out, and I think the par fives are going to even out. I give the slight edge to the American team on those shorter par fours, Nick. The top four longest drivers in this field are actually from Europe, but Aberg and Hogard are two of them, and I don't trust
Yep.
them. And the next six longest players are Americans, and I do trust them. So that's kind of where I lean in those shorter par fours. So let's take a look at four holes that I have isolated as holes that I think are going to be very interesting and really could determine some shots. So we're going to take a look at the second hole. This is a 506-yard par four. And this is one of those holes I was talking about where there's those fairway bunkers are brutal. And they have tall rough. So if you're left or you're right, you're going to have a really, really tough approach shot coming in because it is a longer par four. However, if you hit the fairway, you've got a really nice, clean approach. The green is big. The green and regulation numbers are going to be very high if you hit the fairway off that. But if you hit it in any of these bunkers, it could be trouble. And on the second hole, I really, really like a difficult hole like this because it really could set the tone for the rest of the round. So this second hole, keep your eye on this one. Those fairway bunkers and the rough, very, very penalizing. The next hole is the fifth hole, and here we go with one of these shorter par fours. It is a really, really fun hole. So the green is on the other side of that water, and if guys want to take a rip for it, they can. But the green is surrounded by water and by sand, so it's going to be difficult to see guys try and drive it and land it on the green, and it depends how good your around the green game is. It's a very, very risk reward hole because obviously you pull it off to the left, you're going to be in the water. If you fade it out to the right, you've got a difficult approach. However, this fairway is, the layup is pretty easy. And if you lay it up, you're going to have that 50, 60-yard approach shot coming in. So you may see shorter players. Brian Harmon stands out to me. He's not going to drive this thing, but he is probably going to set himself up for a really nice, easy approach shot coming in. So the longer players are definitely going to go for it. They're gonna have birdie or bogey. It's gonna be it's tough to see a par when if you drive over the water and get into one of those bunkers. It all comes down to your approach game. So this is one where the strategy is going to be really, really key, especially when you're talking about alternate shots and talking about the team event. So the fifth hole, really interesting. We'll go to another one. This is the 11th hole. This is a 329-yard par four. Putting the ball, you have to. You just have to. You cannot be to the left or the right in those bunkers. You see those those cool strokes gain graphic. Those are part of the video. Like I said, that video is really awesome. If you go off to the right in that bunker, you've basically guaranteed yourself a bogey. If you hit it in the fairway, you got a good, nice, short approach. And this green is kind of narrow. You can see off to the left, there's bunkers. That's bad. If you go long, really, really tall grass, that's bad. So you have to hit the fairway in this one. So again, strategy is going to be key. If you're driving second and you see your opponent hit it into the bunker, my guess is you're probably going to pull out an iron and just put it into the fairway. So strategy is going to be key on this hole, and hitting it in the fairway is absolutely essential. And finally, the 16th hole. I think this is going to be the hole that everyone leaves the course talking about this week. It's just an amazing, beautiful hole. It's 303 yards, par four. I mean, look at this tee shot. If you fade it slightly to the right, you're in the water. When they played the Italian Open here, over 8% of players drove it in the water. So this is a tough. It's like, okay, it's 300 yards. So I think some of these guys, since it's downhill, they may pull out 3 wood.
Yep.
To the left is a bunker that should be pretty easy to get up and down. Just short is a bunker that's an easy up and down. You cannot be long. There's a lot of thick rough back there, and some guys may take longer irons and just try and lay it up here. But when you're coming down the stretch towards the end of the round, this 16th hole I think is going to be the one that everyone talks about. That there's trouble kind of that splits the fairway there. So it's an amazing hole. I can't wait to watch the team aspect. I can't wait to watch the singles going at this hole. So those are 4 holes that I think are really going to tell the tale of the Ryder Cup. Nick, throughout the season, you've given out this amazing chart with all the total strokes gained. That's where most of your outright winners came from. And you did an amazing chart here for the Ryder Cup. So obviously it's a team event, but we got to know how the individual golfers are playing. Let's go over this chart. Walk us through it. Tell us what we can learn from it. Who's hot, who's cold, and what'd you learn from this one?
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to put this together. You're right. I mean, this is what I use to find outright winners. Clearly, a different animal this week, but it does give an indication of who's playing well coming in. So we're looking at the USA team here to start, and the number, or I guess in the wording in parentheses next to their name, this is the number of appearances this will be. So you can see a lot of guys. It's their second appearance. All the top guys, a couple 4 rookies, which both teams have. And Ricky and Jordan are the leaders as far as a number of appearances. That they have had 4 before. This will be their 5th. So you got some experience there. But really, I don't think there's anything surprising here. I mean, Scottie Scheffler has been, over the last 12 months, the best player in the world. But he has trended down over the last 3 months. We know that. He hasn't been winning. His putting is just continuing to give him problems. He is working with that putting guru over there. So perhaps that will turn his week around. But there's no surprises here to me. Justin Thomas, you can clearly see it on the graphic of what the year has been for him and why he was such a, I guess, like the captain's pick that just has a lot of controversy around it, and people don't necessarily agree with it. Which you can't argue his pedigree in these type of events, but his playing over the last 12 months and going back even a little longer does question, does he deserve to be here or not? Brooks Koepka, a little maybe jaded because you don't have the data, you have the majors, and that's all that attributes to the strokes gain graphic for him. So he rounds out there at the bottom as well. But otherwise, not a real surprise here. Harmon trending way upwards because of his rise to that Open Championship. So I look at this. This is something for me to try to figure out. Who's going to probably play well, who's likely to play in more of the matches, right? So the captains will select who's playing in the matches. Not everybody is going to play all 5 matches that are out there. So probably gives you a good idea of the top 4 or 5 guys might be the ones most likely to play in most of these matches, unless there just becomes a hot pairing where they win 2 in the first day. It's going to be hard to sit them. But that's calm utilizing this graphic this week. And on the other side, if we look, for Team Europe, it's Rom, it's Rory, it's Victor. It's who you expect to be right there. And of course, the 2 hottest players in the entire field, Victor is number 1 and Rory is number 2. And that's just how good they've been recently. So that makes a lot of sense. And then, Robert McIntyre, I'm like, when I'm doing my research on him, I'm like, oh, okay, he's a good captain's pick. Yeah, yeah. But I'm like, wait a minute, he automatically qualified. And it's kind of weird to think because of how his strokes gains look over the last 12 months. But I guess over the last 24, it's been a little bit stronger. But, if you just compare both charts to one another, here's what you're going to notice. Team USA has everybody ranked in the top 25 officially in the world. Team Europe, you go all the way down to 80 or 81 with Aberg and Hogard. And then strokes gained, you're going to see a more consistent graph throughout the 12 players. The highest guys in the field, or the couple more that you have, is actually on Team Europe, but they also have some of the lowest in McIntyre, Hogard, Sepp. So that's the difference to me, is how much it looks on paper. Team USA, it might be better than Team Europe, but I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the strokes gained for this week and how I'm kind of using it to try to judge who might play the most, because that'll be important when we're trying to figure out who's going to get the most points scored this week.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying all this gambling content, please do us a favor and hit the like button while you're watching. It really helps us out. And don't forget to leave us a comment telling us who you think is going to win. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the American comments are going to be for Team USA, and the Europeans watching are probably going to be for Team Europe. But let us know who you think is going to win and why. What do you see? Listen, Nick and I do all the research. Doesn't mean we found everything. So let us know any gems, little nuggets, or anything that you guys have noticed. That leave us in the comment section. We read all the comments. It's a great week to be interactive on that board. So hit the like button, leave us a comment, and don't forget to grab Nick Borman's pack at WagerTalk.com and grab my pack for all the official Ryder Cup plays at WagerTalk.com. I'm going to go over 2 U.S. players that I think can trip you up, and you already mentioned him, Brooks Koepka. This guy worries me, Nick, coming off the Live Tour. And here's the thing with Brooks. We all just expect him to flip the switch and turn into the amazing Brooks Koepka, showing up at majors. But here's the thing. I mean, listen to these finishes on the Live Tour. 17th, 38th, 38th, 24th. That's his last 4 finishes on the Live Tour. And he was 17th at the U.S. Open. This is after his win at the PGA Championship. Then he was 64th at the Open. I'm not really. I don't. We always just say, well, Brooks, he'll flip the switch and he'll turn it on. I don't know, man. He worries me. His putting is terrible. His around the green is not good. So I'm wondering. Well, I'm sorry. His tee to green is the bad part of his game. What I was gonna bring up was that his tee to green is awful, but around the green he's pretty good. And I'm wondering if he's a perfect pair with Scheffler.
They have been talking about that.
Yes, just let Scheffler bomb it. Let Brooks do the putting, please. So I don't know. I just think depending on Brooks Koepka to immediately go back into the elite Brooks Koepka is dangerous, especially where there's no margin for error. Like if he's not great, if he's the guy that's finishing 38th on the Live Tour, then he's going to get creamed in some of these matchups. So Brooks Koepka is my first guy that can trip you up. And then second is Jordan Spieth. So there's a couple things going on here. He has the 5th worst total strokes gained in this field over the last 3 months. His putting is 4th worst. Nick, do you know what happened with Jordan Spieth a week ago?
I don't. Does that have something to do with the baby?
He and his wife just had their second baby. And those of you that have followed me for a while know I like fading golfers who have just had babies, and it messes up with their sleep schedule. It messes up their practice schedule. Not saying that Jordan Spieth isn't dialed in and prepared. It's just a little bit of a distraction. And quite honestly, his game has not been that good. So Brooks Koepka and Jordan Spieth, just not I'm not real confident in those two guys. The good news is I think the American team has a lot of other guys that are going to play really well this week. So those are two players that I think can trip you up from the American team. Nick, coming to you, you're going to talk about a player that you like to score the most points, and this is definitely a player that we both like. It's on the American team, and who do you like to score the most points this week?
Yeah, I mentioned before that the challenge this week, kind of like picking the top point scorer to me is kind of like the outright market this week as far as prices you're going to see. You're going to get 12 to ones. You're going to get up to 80 to ones on certain guys. The challenge, though, is it's not obviously who's just going to play well over 4 days. It's who's going to get on the course the most, right? Who's going to be that guy? You get that. I mean, that's step one. You got to have a pick with somebody that's going to be on there at least 4 matches. You're not going to pick a guy that you might only see 2 or 3 times. It's just unlikely they're going to have that top point scorer. So there's only probably 4 guys, maybe 5, you could argue, on either team that have that potential to possibly be on the course for all 5 matches. And one on Team USA that I really like is Xander because he has proven in his limited experience, go back to the President's Cup and go back to the last Ryder Cup, he has been very, very good. And I don't think there's any, I think everybody in the world knows who exactly he's going to be paired with because they've been fantastic together. And that's Cantlay. And they've even been playing that partners event on the tour, the Zurich Classic. So I mean, they are playing everything together. There's no doubt in my mind that they'll be paired together, and their record has been phenomenal. So it only makes sense to do that. The duo was paired together both at the 2019 Presidents Cup and 2022 Presidents Cup, as well as the 2021 Ryder Cup. They have a perfect 5-0 record, Andy, in foursomes combined between both of those competitions. They very well could be that first match out on Friday just to get that Team USA moving because we'll talk about this in a little bit, but they did switch which kind of matches are heading out first this year. So I think that's going to be a important duo to get on the course and try to get a point early for USA. And both players, what I like about them is they're very level-headed. They complement one another very well. Both players are good, very good with the irons, but Cantley has better off the tee numbers near the top on tour, while Schauffele is the better putter. And I mean, if you look at his strokes gained putting, the guy hasn't lost gained on putting on the greens, I don't think all year. He's fantastic with that flat stick. So you think, in that alternate shot format, Cantley well, I guess it would be Xander. Depends on what the hole is, but Cantley off the tee, Schauffele with the putt will be a huge component to how they play, and I think that's why they've done so well. So Cantley ranks third in this field of 24 in strokes gained off the tee over the last 12 months, while Schauffele ranks second in strokes gained putting out of these 24 players. So again, it's just proving they complement one another very well, and obviously they're very, very comfortable with one another. So I think they'll be on the course at least 3 of the 4 matches in the teams. If they win both, if they start both on Friday and win both, I think it'll be very, very hard for Zach Johnson not to put them both out there together again on Saturday. So I like Xander to be on the course a lot, and then I think with his comfortableness with Cantley, I think they'll earn quite a few wins. So I like Xander 12 to 1 to get top points this week.
Love it. Yeah, I mean the big key there, like you said, is they got to be out there the most. So you need the most
Yeah.
chances to get the points. So that's a great look. I'm going to talk about 2 European players that I'm worried about, and yeah, the obvious one is Robert McIntyre. He's the least accurate driver in the field. I talked about how the rough it can be pretty penalizing. There are a lot of fairway bunkers. There's water. I just see trouble for him. And he's just not great in any other category. I don't think the pressure bothers him. This is a guy that's played really well in big events. He's played well at majors, so I don't see the pressure getting to him. I just don't see his game being that good right now. I don't see where he excels at. You need to have a really high ceiling to steal some holes. Like, I mean, hitting one amazing shot could be the difference between having the match and winning the match. You hit just an incredible shot and you get a birdie out of that. And I just don't see his game, doing that. Far from it. I think he could actually be pretty dangerous off the tee if he fades the ball left to right and puts his team in a bad spot. I think McIntyre is the weak link on the European team, and I like him. I've bet on him over the years. He's really good. I just don't see him doing well in this particular format. And then this is gonna shock everybody. Rory McIlroy worries me, Nick. He really does. He doesn't have that good of a record at Ryder Cups. He's 3-1-2 in singles. He's 5-1-5 in foursomes, and 4-2-5 in four balls. This is what, the top 2 player in the world, but some would say the top player in the world. The European team is going to be counting on him to have success. They're going to need him to have success, but he's going to have to outperform his history at the Ryder Cup. It's not been that great. When I was looking up the numbers, I was really quite stunned, but the American team has done a good job of neutralizing him. I mean, he's coming in and winning 43% of his matches. So Rory is going to have a big week. He's going to have to outperform what he's done in the past at Ryder Cups. But if he does perform at this 43% or even the 50%, that's an uphill battle for the European team. So Robert McIntyre and Rory McIlroy, pressure's on all these guys, but from the European team, these guys need to overperform in order for Europe to have a good shot. All right, Nick, let's talk a little bit about the format, and then we'll get into who we think is going to win. You noted that the host, you want to explain how the host country kind of changed the format here a little bit to benefit them?
Yeah, so I honestly didn't even realize this was the captain's choice or the host country's choice, but they can determine who or which type of match goes out first. Traditionally, we always see the four ball, which is the better ball, go out first. And the U.S. got off to such a strong start 2 years ago in that 10-point 18-9 win that Captain Luke Donald said we're going to change things up. He feels that his team is much better on the alternate shot, or at least has a better chance to gain points. So they flipped the script here, and they're going out in foursomes first, which is alternate shot, which I do believe. I mean, I agree with them. Listen, you can't argue the fact that they got rolled over in better ball last time. So why not change it up and try to get some? Because it's going to be very important to get off to a good start. You fall down, 3 points on day one. It's your heads are down. It's just hard to climb out of. So I like the idea. I like the strategy for him to do that. But as we'll see, I mean, if they don't get off to a strong start, it doesn't really matter that they changed it. But the format, as you mentioned, Andy, is it's the same both days. It's going to be four sums first on both Friday and Saturday. And again, that is the alternate shot. And then we got four ball, which is the better ball. Those will be the afternoon pairings. That's where both players just play their own ball, lowest score counts. That's where you're going to see a lot more. All right, you go safe, I'll go for the green, or both will go for the green. Right? There's a lot more chance you can take on that. The alternate shot's going to be where so much strategy comes into play because you don't. The worst thing about alternate shot is you don't get mad at yourself. Like, well, I mean, you get mad at yourself, but you're not upset for yourself when you hit a bad shot. You just feel so crappy that you put your partner in just a terrible spot. So there's actually way more pressure on that format than the other one. And I mean, it makes sense. You only get one shot at what you're doing, but like, you just don't want to let your partner down. So, and I kind of do agree with Luke Tennell. I think Team Europe, I don't know why. Maybe it's just a gut feeling. I'm not really sure. I don't have data necessarily, but I feel like he's right. I think they have the better chance to get more points out of that format than they do better ball. And that's probably just because top to bottom, they have, maybe not as strong of a team for all 12 players. So anyway, that's kind of those 2 days. And of course, what's Sunday, Andy? We know what Sunday is.
Singles, baby.
Yep.
1v1 head to head. So let's just recap the schedule so you guys know when the bets will come out and the matches will come out. So Thursday evening, they're going to announce the pairs for Friday morning. That's when you're going to see some of those bets come out. So Thursday evening, we should know what the pairs are going to be. So Friday morning, they're going to play that. And at the end of the foursomes, they're going to make the pairs for the four balls. And then there will be those head-to-heads will be trickling out. So if you're following all of our picks, make sure you know when these rounds are coming to an end because we got a really small window to get these bets in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the exact same schedule for Saturday. So Friday evening, they're going to make the announcement for the pairs for Saturday morning. They'll play Saturday. As soon as they're over on the foursomes, they're going to make the pairs for the afternoon. That's when the bets will come out. And then, of course, Saturday evening, 1 hour after the four balls conclude, the captains will assign the order that the singles will take place on Sunday, and that's when the bets will come out. So make sure you're kind of up, make sure you're paying attention to when these matches are coming to their conclusion because we only got about an hour window in between.
I'll add one more thing there, Andy, because you're absolutely right. But remember, Andy's also talking about local time, right? So they're playing in Italy. You're talking about 5 hours ahead of the East Coast of the United States. So those morning matches on Friday and Saturday are actually like they start. I think it starts at 1:35 a.m. On Friday and Saturday, and then the afternoon matches in Italy are actually still at either like 6:30 or close to 7, somewhere in that. I forget exactly. I think it's 6:30 Eastern time. So it's still early as heck. So you got to have to get up and make sure you're ready to follow along
Yeah,
as we try to get those bets in ahead of those.
it's not. It's fun, but it's not fun to follow that along. So, all right, Nick, let's talk it out. Who do you think's gonna win?
So quickly, I'm happy with the selection I made because I've got the better of what I'm seeing available right now on the number. I took Europe to win the Ryder Cup on Monday. Today that we're filming this is Wednesday, and right now you're down to about plus 110. I'm seeing a lot of places, so I'm happy. I'm a little bit ahead of the number. The big thing we got going here for Team USA is just history, right? It's hard to want to bet against Team USA. I've already said it. I think top to bottom they are the stronger team. However, as much as they dominated 2 years ago in that, that win, it's like at some point it was like, all right, well, this thing's gonna be hard to catch up anyway. I felt like the fight went away from Team Europe, and it's hard, of course, to win on anybody else's field. It's home court advantage, right? So USA has not won the Ryder Cup in Europe since 1993. 30 years ago was the last
It's
time
ridiculous.
that it
It's
happened,
ridiculous. How is that not? How
and
is
that was
that not
also
happening?
it is. It is. It's also the last time that Team USA successfully defended a Ryder Cup. So, I mean, we got 30 years of history, and I know it's, I guess, 14 previous events at this times that this has happened, and only 7 of those have been in Europe. But it's like, okay, it hasn't happened. It's a lot of history going against them. So, I would also argue, just looking at the players, I think Team Europe might be peaking at the right time. I mean, you got Victor Hovland coming off, the incredible finish to last season. Fleetwood and Hatton both playing great. Rory is Rory. Heck, even Ludwig Aberg. I mentioned how about his world ranking at 80, but he might be one of the best players playing in the field right now because he's still playing. I mean, he's got 3 straight top tens, including a win as he's playing on the DP World Tour right now. So, for the last win for Team USA was Brian Harman at the Open Championship. I know there hasn't been a ton of PGA Tour events, but I just feel like that there's a little bit of, I don't know, more – there's been more play, I think, out of Team Europe recently too. And we talked about what was the tournament, the BMW PGA Championship, where they had all 12 of their players playing in that event just 2 weeks ago. So they have that going for them. And I'll add, if you want to look at course history here, Team USA has none. The competition-wise, nobody's ever played at this golf course from Team USA. While on the European side, you actually have quite a bit. You got the players have played 11 total starts at this tournament. I mean, you got guys like Robert McIntyre, who you mentioned. He won this event when it was the Italian Open in 2022. Nikolai Hogard won in 2021. So again, I know it doesn't really pertain to what this format is, but at least my point is they have course knowledge. They've played this in a competition setup before. It does help a little bit, especially in a partners game where you're really trying to talk strategy with the other guy. So all those little factors, I hate to do it. I want to see the Americans win, but I'm putting my money on Team Europe this week.
Love it. One stat that will, kind of that supports that is, over the last 3 months, the U.S. has the top 2 golfers in strokes gained putting. That's Schauffele and Harmon. They also have 5 out of the bottom 6. We got some bad putters on on the American team.
Don't give them anything. Put it all out.
Jeez, like Scheffler, Cantlay, Spieth, Justin Thomas, Morikawa, really, really struggling. Something that is not good for Team Europe is Matthew Fitzpatrick and Victor Hovland. They're a combined 0-2-8 in Ryder Cup
True.
rounds. They have not done well. So I don't have an official pick for this at WagerTalk. The way I bet on the Ryder Cup is just individual matches. I will take the American team to win. I think top to bottom they just got too much firepower. I think there's too many holes in the European game. Them switching up the format is it could help them, but it could backfire big time.
That's
Like
true.
if they don't get off to the good start, it's like uh-oh.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
I think all the top players are going to be pretty close to even, but once you start getting down to the Ludwig Aberg and the Sepp Strakas and the Hogards and the McIntyres, I just think that's going to be. I think it's just going to be too many holes in their game, and there's just going to be some shots. And in this team format, like as you know, Nick, one shot could determine the hole, which could
Hmm.
determine the match. And I just think that there's going to be some mistakes from the European team that's going to open the door for the American team. So I'll ride with the American team. I just top to bottom in the middle, I think they're just a little bit better. So, but it's going to be a great Ryder Cup. The course is fantastic. The teams are great. You know, the crowd is going to be insane.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. So go grab Nick Borman's Ryder Cup pack. That is at wagertalk.com. MyWagerTalk.com Ryder Cup pack is up as well. Both of them are only $19, so you could absolutely get both of them and enjoy cashing all of those golf plays. So Nick is coming off of an incredible season. How many outright winners was it for you, Nick?
13 with an asterisk. I'll say 12 officially.
Okay.
One per
Yeah,
month.
I
I
don't
guess.
want to get I don't want to get too excited, Nick, but since the end of the season, I am on a 1-0 streak. Uh, so,
Love it.
yeah, so I'm coming into the Ryder Cup with some momentum here. I'm like Victor Hovland, uh, coming in on a hot streak. So, all right, guys, enjoy the Ryder Cup. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You'll get Ryder Cup thoughts as the event is going on. Most importantly, grab those plays at WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Go Team USA. Let's bring that bad boy home and let's defend the title. Good luck on all your bets, and we will see everyone next time on Wager Talk Extra.